What is up, guys? I'm Silas Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health and social well-being. And today's video is pretty much going to be a follow-up to my last YouTube video. Now, my last YouTube video, I covered quite a few topics. I talked about singles year-round. I talked about the psychology of individual lifters when it comes to specific rep ranges and the benefits of cycling rep ranges if you don't want to necessarily do singles year-round. And I also talked about the importance of, like, how to kind of work around, like, injuries in terms of if you're feeling like, little tweaks, strains here and there. Nothing that's actually stopping you from lifting, but just little discomforts, how to work around it and why you shouldn't pull back too much and everything like that. Well, this follow-up video is going to be about what happened the Saturday following that video, which was not this past Saturday, but 2 Saturdays ago, where I actually ended up hurting my back like full out. As you guys, remember from my last video, I said I was already feeling a little bit of irritation, so I was scaling some things back, working around as much as I could. I was still able to work out, but long story short, I ended up going out of town to Tampa because two of my clients got engaged, so Amber and I went out to surprise them in terms of like being there for when my client Darren proposed to his girlfriend and my client Heather, so we were there for that, and we trained with them. And pretty much like in the last video, I'm gonna have clips pop up, on screen in the corner, whatever, as I'm explaining different things. But pretty much by that day, squats were feeling great. Squats were feeling the best they had in a while, since I told you guys in the last video that I had to be kind of careful with the squats. They felt fantastic that day. I worked up to 407 pounds for my top set of 5, which at that point I believe matched my best set of 5 that I've done on the low bar squat, so that felt really, really, really good. And then my back downs, I think, were like 300, I want to say like 340 something pounds. Those also felt really good for my 3 back down sets of 5. And squats just felt very locked in, no discomfort, no pain, still just focusing on really make sure I maintain that stacked position and keep my tension from the top all the way into the hole and reversing back up, and that felt great. Deadlifts, on the other hand, were feeling okay. I worked all the way up to my final one of 485 pounds, and it moved decently, but it wasn't feeling quite as good as what things were the previous week. And in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm being too conscious of the back, I'm being too hesitant, and that's why my position feels off. I have to get the slack out, wedge, create that tension, and focus on maintaining a good position, but I can't be too hesitant with it. So I could have just called it there, but in my mind, it's like, okay, well, I still want to do what's prescribed, so let me just bump up what I did from the previous week, which is 545 pounds. Let me just bump it up to 550 pounds. And I did it. It did not move like the way I wanted to at all, because it's one of those things where I didn't hesitate, but because I focused so much on not hesitating, kind of just moving, I didn't really allow myself to get into the strongest position. So when I locked that rep out, it was not feeling good. I definitely strained my back pretty badly. Now, I don't know if it was just just the left side of my rectors. I don't know if it was my QL. Not exactly sure, but I just know that I strained my back pretty badly. If I had to guess, I'd say it was probably QL. But after that, it was at a point where I literally, everything hurt. Like, standing up hurt, walking around hurt, bending over, sitting down, laying down, everything just it was very, very uncomfortable. Just moving around, I was in a lot of pain. But instead of freaking out and just laying down doing nothing, because that's literally the worst thing you can do when it comes to your back rehab, I immediately called Brad up, told him what happened, and we started running through some movement drills. And it was very, very difficult at first. I couldn't really go through the full range of motions that I wanted to. Like, hinging was very, very painful. I can only hinge down so far, but I did what I could. And then in terms of some of the other drills he gave me, the first couple rounds we tried them, it was very painful, very uncomfortable, but the more we kept going, the better it felt. Right now, I was still in a lot of pain that day, and I did do quite a bit of sitting and laying about that day. But periodically, I would still get up, try to walk around, move about, because that's the first thing I want to cover, guys. Is that when it comes to a back tweak or a back strain, you don't want to be sedentary. You don't want to just sit around. That's going to make the back feel worse. It's going to make the back feel very locked up. You want to already be trying to go through as much movement, what range of motion as you can. Even if there's some pain and discomfort, that's fine. You obviously don't go back and do the movement that just hurt you. Like, I didn't go back and do my conventional back downs or anything like that. But I still moved around to what degree I could. And then I still got my bench work for that day done too, my light percentage-based bench work, because I was able to set up and get that done. But I went to bed with, in pain, not feeling very, very good. The next day, getting out of bed was still very difficult. Getting my pants on was difficult. I was tying my own shoes. Amber was having to help me with it. I was in a lot of pain and discomfort, but was still trying to the best of my ability, get up, walk around, everything like that. And then that next day on our plane ride back, obviously, being on the plane did not feel very comfortable, but actually, funnily enough, when I got off the plane, I didn't feel as bad as what I thought I was going to. I actually felt a lot better than what I did before I got on the plane. And I think a big part of that is just from the mere fact that, when you first wake up, you've been laying down asleep for hours. So the back's not gonna feel really good in general when you first wake up. You know how when you first wake up, things feel kind of stiff? Well, if you just hurt yourself, that's gonna be intensified. And that's what I was feeling. But as soon as I got home, still started doing what movement drills I could. I did a couple ones that that Brad gave me. I got a couple ones from my my client, my boy Derek, who's a PT student, and in my opinion, going to be one of the best physical therapists in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if not just the nation. That's how much faith I have in this dude. And as well as just I've got a lot of experience, even though it was only really my third ever full-on injury for myself in lifting. I've got a lot of experience working with injured clients. A lot of my clients come to me injured, and they come to me because they're injured, and they've heard that, hey, you get people healthy, you keep them healthy. So due to that, I was able to I already had a lot of drills I knew I needed to go through, and I knew that my biggest focus was, hey, move the back through various ranges of motion, flexion, extension, T-spine rotation. I was trying to do all of that. And as well as just not letting myself be sedentary for too long. Obviously, I had times throughout the day where I had to kind of sit down and lay back, and that was actually the most uncomfortable thing, would be sitting down and then trying to get back up, which is pretty common when it comes to lower back injuries anyway, whether it's a QL or something else. But from all that experience working with other athletes, not only did I kind of know what to do physically, but I knew what type of mentality to have. It's really easy when you hurt yourself to just be thinking, oh my God, I messed up. Oh, I shouldn't have gone for that set, or I should have done this. What you start thinking about all the what ifs and the woulda, shoulda, coulda, but there's no point in doing that because it's already done, and that's just going to make you very upset, very frustrated. Feel how you need to feel, vent to wherever you need to, but then think about, okay, what can I do to address this? And then getting too caught up on what caused it isn't overly important either. Now, mind you, like I explained in my past video, on top of those 2 weeks where I was training very dehydrated just because the AC was out at our gym and I wasn't really focused on proper water intake the way I needed to be, I think the biggest thing was the total workloads that I was doing last block coming into this block, as I mentioned. Not just the fact that I was doing more workload than I ever had on squats and bench, but specifically with the deadlift. For those of you who don't know, after my February meet, right, because you guys might remember I switched from sumo to conventional right before my February meet, and I hit an all-time PR of 573 pounds at that meet. And then when March started, Brad and I were doing conventional twice a week. At first we were doing conventional on the primary day, then trap bar on the secondary day, but then we went to conventional twice a week. Now ordinarily that's not something that you would do with somebody. That's not something that I usually do with my own clients either. If it's a sumo puller, you can get away with sumo twice a week. With conventional pullers, usually that secondary day is some type of variation, whether it's pause deadlifts followed by just some RDLs, or whether it's block pulls or some very light percentage-based secondary work. You usually don't have two competition conventional deadlift days where both are RP-based top sets and then back down work followed by that. Like with me, it would be working up to a top single on my primary day, my primary SPD day, and then doing 5 back down doubles based upon percentage drop of my top set. And the secondary day would be working up to either a top triple or double, then doing a 3x4 or 3x5 based upon a percentage drop of my top set as well. But the reason we were doing that is because since I just switched back to conventional, it was to help me get really technically efficient, as well as help kind of build my strength and work capacity on the movement. And at first it was working great because there was such a big gap between what I could do on my primary and my secondary day. But as I continued to get stronger, you guys might remember that on my 1-year anniversary trip in Miami back in July, that week, even with traveling, I worked up to 530 pounds for a PR double on that secondary day. And then the following primary day hit an all-time PR of 606 pounds. So it pretty much got to the point where my primary days, I was hitting the mid to upper 500s for my top set, and then my back down work after that. And then on the secondary day, I was hitting anywhere from the low to mid 500s. So the gap between the 2 days closed in just because I got stronger, I got more technically efficient, and thus the workload I could do on both days kept going up, including on that secondary day. Well, that was all well and good, but it got to a point where I want to say, like I said, a couple weeks before I started feeling any type of back irritation, I noticed that there was a decline on my secondary day. I just wasn't feeling as strong on my secondary deadlift day. Now, the first week I just wrote off as fatigue and that was fine, but then when it kept persisting the following week, I was like, it might be time to scale this secondary day back. So I should have been smart, listened to my body, and done it right then and there, but I didn't because I wanted to just finish the block out and then transition. But that's when I started feeling some back irritability, and then one thing led to another, and then the back strength. So if I had to guess what overall caused it, it's just the fact that, as I've told you guys before, I'm not exactly built great for the deadlift, right? Even though I have relatively long arms for my frame, because of how long my legs are and how my hips insert, getting to that position, it takes a lot of work for me. That's why, I take my time hinging down to it. I naturally tend to bias flexion, so I have to fight really hard to stay in that more neutral position. So just getting that position over and over and doing so much workload, just probably got to a point where my back just couldn't handle it quite as much anymore. But even if it wasn't that, even if it was like just a freak accident that happened that day in Tampa, it doesn't matter what causes it. Doesn't so much matter, because 90% of the time, guys, you're not going to know exactly what caused back issues. And like any well-versed physical therapist will actually be honest and tell you that. Like, they can try to give you a diagnosis of, oh, we think it's this or that. But if you go and like get an MRI, your MRI might show, oh, you have this issue with your back, this bulging, this, and that. But it can be completely different than what symptoms of pain you're feeling. And as I said in my last video, pain is very complex. There's a lot to it. So it's not so much about, okay, what caused it. It's more so, okay, what can I do to start working on this and treating this? And that's why I was immediately focused on just moving around as much as possible. That following Monday, which would have been my secondary squat day, I tried to see if I could do some SSB squats, but just was not happening. Even doing the bar itself felt painful, so that wasn't going down. I couldn't do high bar, I couldn't do low bar, I couldn't do front squats, anything like that. So instead of just getting frustrated and going home, I did what I could. I did goblet squats, heel elevated goblet squats. I did some dumbbell RDLs and just kept going through my movement drills. And that was my big thing. It's like, hey, it's still fresh. I only trained this a couple days ago at that point. Just keep moving and doing what I can. My upper body workouts were totally fine. I was still able to, in fact, the day after I, had the strain, when I got back to Texas from the trip, I was still able to do my bench workout that Sunday. And then that following Tuesday and Thursday, all my upper body stuff was fine. I was still, like, anything upper body related, I was able to do no problem. I could still set up on the bench. It was pretty much just like, lower body related stuff that was an issue. But I still made sure to keep moving as much as what I could. So then that following Wednesday, I came in and just got as much, and then I got some belt squat. I was able to belt squat totally pain-free with no issue. So I made sure to belt squat, and I did, instead of my usual like 3 sets of it, I think I did like 6 sets of it to kind of make up for the fact that I wasn't doing any squatting or pulling. And then I still did, more dumbbell RDLs, more goblet squats, things like that. Because that's the biggest thing, guys. You want any range of motion you can go through. You want to make sure you're doing it. Any exercises that you're able to still do that are loaded, still do it. And ordinarily, any variations of the movements that you can do that you aren't able to do right now, you would still do it. But like I said, in that case, any type of back or barbell squatting wasn't going down, so I did what I could as far as machine work with the belt squat, things like that. And that was feeling really, really good. A lot of people, like when they get hurt, they'll either just try to like pull back too early and not do anything, or they might focus on like, okay, well, let me work on like, maybe my back was taking too much load because my glutes and hamstrings were weak or whatever, so let me work on my glutes and hamstrings. That's fine. I think it's definitely good and important to try to, work on surrounding musculature or even the antagonistic muscles to whatever got hurt, because sometimes the antagonistic muscle might be trying to compensate for something, right? Like sometimes maybe the back is compensating because we're having issues with the glutes and hips. So maybe that can lead to something like a back strain, right? Or if you're having issues like, sometimes with the bicep, it might actually be something that you need to work on as far as your tricep, because we already know when you have these type of imbalances or one muscle group compensating for another over and over, that muscle group that's compensating can get overworked and can get more fatigued, and that can of course lead to pain and injuries, things like that. But while you're also working on those antagonistic muscle groups, you don't want to avoid the group that got hurt. A lot of people say like, oh, if it hurts, stay away from it. It's like, no, still do what you can. You're gonna feel some tension and feel discomfort, but you want to work your muscle through those ranges of motion so your body gets back acclimated to doing that. That's why I was making sure I was going through flexion, extension, twisting, anything that like felt uncomfortable. I would try to do non-loaded movements that would let me work through that discomfort. So that's what I was pretty much focused on. And with doing this every single day, I was feeling better and better every single day. I was able to move more. I was able to go through full ranges of motion. Halfway through the week, I was already able to do all my drills relatively pain-free. It got to the point where the most uncomfortable thing would literally be sitting down or getting in the car and driving for a long period of time, just because I'm sitting in this kind of like, flex position. If I try to stay upright and extended while sitting, that would start to feel uncomfortable over time as well. But the point is, I didn't get discouraged. I just kept moving and doing what I could. It's like, hey, it's 1 week. Let me do everything I can on my end. Sometimes a strain can take 2 to 4 weeks to heal, but I'm gonna do everything on my end to make sure it heals as quickly as possible. By that following Saturday, I came in and was able to squat pain-free. I came in with the intention of, hey, I've got like an RP8 today, but I'm just gonna do it based upon comfort. I managed to work up to 413 pounds for a PR set of 5, so I still beat what I did the previous Saturday, despite having not squatted the rest of the week after that, was able to come in and squat pain-free, and it felt great. Really just focusing on, once again, the things I talked about in the past video, getting in a nice tight stack position, really driving the knees forward, big toe down, make sure I'm loading into the quads, keeping that torso in alignment with the hips by, like, you know, not going into too much extension, letting that natural forward lean to the whole come, and it felt really, really good. The only thing I changed was I brought my grip in just a little bit more so I could really focus on keeping that upper back tight all the way throughout the motion, and it felt great. My top set felt really, really good, and both of my back down sets felt really, really good, so I was really, really happy with that. As far as deadlifts, I was playing around with my positioning in terms of really just making sure that, like, I was hinging properly. So, because one thing I noticed while looking at my past deadlift clips was I was getting in the habit of, instead of just hinging down to the bar, I would still be trying to drive the knees forward, which kind of caused me to kind of sit the hips back more than I needed to. And when you're hinging, you don't want to sit the hips back too far. I was doing that because it made me feel like I was getting in a more comfortable, neutral position. But in actuality, I just wanted to get a little bit of bend in the knees, brace into that, and then just hinge down to the bar. So that's what I was working on. I only worked up to 507 pounds for my single that day because deadlifts were still feeling a little bit more irritated than squats. There wasn't so much I was feeling any pain, but I could still tell I was being very conscious of the back, and it just wasn't worth pushing that day. So I just worked up to a single at 507 pounds. I did one back down single with 452 pounds, and then I cut the rest of my back down work because I just wasn't feeling comfortable pushing it beyond that. So that's what I did. Then went home, went through more movement drills, and that was great. And as far as like the different movement drills that I'm doing, I'll have those on screen, or I've already been showing some of them on screen, not even sure. And then that following Sunday, was able to come in, do my usual workouts. At that point, I had been being careful with some of my free weight upper body motions, like weighted pull-ups, pillar rows, things like that. But I was able to come in, do my bench no problem, do my weighted pull-ups no problem. So I could just tell that the back as a whole was definitely getting a lot better and feeling a lot better. At that point, the most painful thing literally was driving back home from the gym. Then I was able to come in on Monday, so just a couple of days ago, and was able to do my SSB squats, which I just couldn't do the previous Monday. I was able to do my SSB squats no problem. I was able to do all my accessories, belt squats, leg extensions, lying leg curls, and I felt great. It was the most pain-free session that I'd had thus far. And then yesterday was Tuesday, came in, did my usual bench work. I had a PR set of 8 with 286 pounds, so I was really, really happy about that. Had some smooth back down work. And then today is Wednesday, and I woke up, got out of bed, and forgot that there was even anything wrong. Because up until this morning, even getting out of bed, I was feeling a little bit of something, but I got out of bed feeling really good, completely pain-free. I've been sitting here this whole time, no pain, no discomfort, so I'm very, very happy about that. Like at this point, I feel like just the slightest bit of anything, if I sit in a specific position and kind of twist around and stuff like that, but it's not even so much pain anymore, so much as like, oh yeah, I can still feel that's kind of there. So pretty much in about a week and a half, I have rehabbed my back, and I feel great. I'm going to go in today and do my tertiary day squats. Obviously, I'm changing my secondary deadlift day up. I feel like I've kind of got what I can from milking the RP-based top set conventional twice a week. So my secondary deadlift days are not going to either be like RDLs or trap bars, just something that's not as taxing on my back. And I say all that to say that I don't necessarily regret, guys, that I was pulling conventional twice a week. I really don't, because it helped me get technically proficient on the lift really, really quickly, and it helped me get strong really quickly. It's just more so how long I was doing it, how long I was pushing it, because when you get to a certain strength level, we already know, most of you watching the channel already know, conventional twice a week is really rough. That's why we have some type of variation on the secondary day. So we're switching back to that, just so we don't repeat this again. But like I said, whether that was the direct cause or not, who knows, but it doesn't so much matter. The point is I was able to go through what I needed to go through and treat things because I focused on the things that I could do, constantly moving, working on what range of motions I could, and progressing those ranges of motions. If I can only hinge halfway down at first, getting to the point where I could do a full hinge and feel fine, doing whatever loaded movements that I can, doing whatever variations that I can, and building my way back up to the specific lifts. The fact that I only had to take pretty much a week off from squatting and pulling was great to me. That's not to say it's always going to be the case. Sometimes it can take more time. Sometimes it might take you 2 weeks. Sometimes it might take you 4 weeks. But the point is, don't get in this mindset of, oh, I'm hurt, I have to stay out of the gym, don't move around, let this heel recover. Like, no, you don't want to be sedentary. Active recovery is the best form of recovery you can do. So I'm very, very happy to be sitting here telling you guys that in only, like I said, about a week and a half, I feel pretty much pain-free. And I'm pretty sure that this upcoming Saturday, I'm going to be, which I plan on taking you guys for that session, I plan to be able to do everything as normal, whatever we prescribe in terms of the squats and the deadlifts. I think I'll be able to work up to it just fine. And I'm very excited about it. But yeah, even though, I'm never happy to say like, oh, I got hurt. Like I said, I can't really complain. It's only my third ever real injury that I've had in all my years lifting, just because I'm usually on top of those recovery variables. I'm usually on top of like the things I talked about in the last video proper movement, proper load management, things like that, being on top of my recoverable volume. But the reality is sometimes things happen. And rather than beating yourself up about it, the mindset always needs to be, okay, what am I going to do to work around this and get back to where I need to be? That might sound really easy to say just because like, oh, it's only been like a week and a half. A lot of you are probably like, oh, I've been dealing with this for weeks or months. And hopefully this video gives you some insight into maybe some things you should be doing to help you get through things faster, because I'm very much convinced, not just for myself, like I said, getting several of my clients through this type of stuff, that a lot of it is we try too much avoidance instead of trying to get back into things. Not that you rush, like I said, if you hurt yourself on deadlifting, no one's telling you to go back and deadlift, but do what you can, make the adjustments that you need to, and focus on being as active as possible. And if you do that, guys, I promise you, it's only going to help your recovery, because that's what I've done, and I feel great, and I'm really, really happy about it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I just wanted to get you guys caught up, take you through that. The next few videos will probably be the usual, you know, whatever informative topic I may want to cover, or taking you through my training for the day. But just wanted to kind of do this as a follow-up so let you guys know like what the progress has been with the back. Things got worse, but then they got dramatically better. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go leave a comment down below, let me know what you did. If you not, leave a comment down below, let me know what I can do better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific. I'll catch you guys later.